So today's video is all about the benefits of therapy. This video goes out to anyone who is debating about whether or not to start up therapy, whether it be for mental illness, any mental health concern, or just for like stress and anxiety. Although this will be tailored primarily for people with mental illness, just because that's my experience. For anyone who's new to my channel, I have battled an eating disorder, depression, self-harm, and when I had reached out for treatment, I ended up being at rock bottom. Like, it was absolutely miserable. And so I kind of know, like, the scary thoughts of, oh my gosh, therapy is gonna, like, wash my mind, and I'm gonna be like a zombie, and then I'll be not me, like, it'll change me. And I was really, really scared to think about that, to think about not being who I am. And so that's why today I want to talk about the benefits of going to therapy and why you should make that first appointment. So one of the amazing benefits is a new perspective. Many times when we find ourselves engrossed in belittling and negative thoughts that accompany with an eating disorder, or the sorrow numbness that comes with depression, we literally don't know how to go on. And so I feel that having somebody who is there, a therapist, psychotherapist, a social worker, somebody that you can talk to, a counselor, gives you the ability to recognize things in a different light, to see somebody else's insight, and maybe kind of shed some light on the situation, being rather than, oh, this day's a miserable day and everything's going against my way. I failed my test and I ate breakfast and I know I gained like 6 billion pounds and I can't get through another day because everybody's not ignoring me and they think I'm invisible, and you just have all these fears that start building. And I think that having that perspective is like, okay, well, you tried to pass the test. Okay, maybe you need to study more. Your friends aren't ignoring you and think you're invisible. Did you talk to them? Did you try and reach out and kind of challenging yourself? And they really are there to call you to question what's going on in your life, and kind of put it in a little bit more of semblance, so that you're not only engrossed in the mental reality of your disorder, but that you're aware of the presence of others among you. So I think that's a wonderful insight that you can get. The second thing that I really love about therapy, and like this literally was just confirmed yesterday too, was when you are in therapy, you have a third party observer who is there to listen, to kind of help you make sense of what's going on and help you recognize things that you might not have seen on your own, things that may be triggering you to act upon with symptoms. I know I went in yesterday to therapy and I was being honest with my therapist, and I said, oh, like my eating's been off recently, and like I don't know why, but I just feel myself restricting or not having time to eat, and just overall fixation with food. And she goes, well, tell me about Thursday. And I'm like, what? And she's like, you told me something was happening on Thursday that I'd prefer not to talk about, but something personal happened on Thursday that I was anticipating happening, and yet I knew it was going to have a huge impact on me. And I literally just spent that morning crying, and like I thought everything was okay and that it was going to be good, and it's done and over with. But it was interesting to see that my first instinct was then to slip into those habits, to see myself spiraling into the world of calories and restriction. And I think that's something that is very helpful to have when you have a third party observer who can say, well, it's not out of the blue, you're just in a relapse, or you're in a slip, or you're in a lapse, and you don't know how you got here, but recognizing kind of warning signs or triggers that might have presented themselves. And so I think that's a wonderful advantage that you can have, because sometimes when you are in that situation, it's hard to really know what's going on, because just all of a sudden you may find yourself in front of that fridge, or you find yourself hovering above the toilet, or you find yourself going days without eating, and you can't explain that. So I think that going to therapy is definitely good, because it helps you kind of point out triggers and recognize things that you can do then, which is my third one that I was going to say. It helps teach you coping skills, positive coping skills, that kind of help you deal with the stresses and emotions and anxieties that have been manifesting themselves through food, but recognizing that you can do it in a different way, that you could use art, you could use music, you could use reading, you could use fashion, you could use tumbling, you could use absolutely anything for a coping skill. And I think that having a therapist is very helpful because they help provide um, positive reasons of why they're beneficial and kind of underline the fact that it's not healthy to be engaging in self-harm and kind of underlining why it is and how it's harmful to not only yourself but to the people around you, to your life, and to your mental well-being, and recognizing that any form of self-harm, whether it be through physical self-harm or the self-harm of an eating disorder, that you're able to like do that, I don't know, it's just one of those concepts that I think is very helpful to kind of grasp in therapy, recognizing, well, why am I worthy to eat? Why am I worthy to not cut? Because so many times we find ourselves questioning our self-worth, and I think that's something that therapy definitely helps you do, is kind of come to terms with, well, what is my self-worth? And I think that has been very beneficial even in my own recovery. Like my theme song, because everybody has to have their theme song, but my theme song says, if you strip me, what would you find? And it's to the point where it's like, if you cut me down, like my eating disorder did, you tore me down to rock bottom, what will you find? And like kind of recognizing that strength, bravery, and amazing qualities about myself that I'm starting to see that I have, that I've always had, that I haven't been able to recognize and identify because they've been taken from me because of my disorder. Recognizing that through telling my story, through coming to terms with what happened to me in my past, to having that connection being made with real life examples. I've talked to my therapist about examples about like Wawa and cockroaches and like everyday things, brides. Like we've talked about so many things. Only be um, it doesn't have to only be the eating disordered, focused, or anything of that nature, which I think is something that is so, so important to remember. So I guess those are my wonderful reasons of why therapy is beneficial. If you're thinking of considering therapy, I can't encourage it enough and say just how beneficial it has been in my own life and recognizing that. And so